行动反仇恨联盟于3月8日上午11点举行了线上简报会。会议的主题是艺术和娱乐业在阻止仇恨犯罪蔓延的方面的关键作用。参与会议的4位文艺界人士都认为，加强文艺教育并透过娱乐界的传播，可以增加同理心，设身处地的为人着想，从而减低仇恨犯罪。谢勒白指出，前任加州州长、原籍奥地利的影星阿诺·施瓦辛格最近发表一个视频，谈到他父亲在2战期间受到纳粹迫害的情形，受到极大的关注。这证明文化娱乐界知名人士在防止仇恨犯罪方面可以发挥巨大的影响力。谢勒白同样表示，行动反仇恨联盟 Against Hate Alliance 自去年2022年成立以来，发起了关于仇恨犯罪解决方案的重要对话，汇集了全球专家、政策制定者、政府领导人、刑事司法、人权专业人士和其他利益相关者与媒体成员进行了动态交流。何美梅指出，第95届奥斯卡金像奖将于下周举行，届时将多元化、公平和包容性的承诺展开激烈辩论。艺术和娱乐行业在通过其信息、主题和描述促进平等方面也不容忽视。该行业帮助培育的平台可用于传播信息和教育，增强人人平等，任何仇恨犯罪都是不可接受的观念。
Against Hate Alliance was founded in 2022 to focus on finding and implementing solutions to reduce hate crimes. Today's lineup of presenters represents different disciplines within the broader category of the arts and entertainment industry, which has the power to influence culture and promote social change. This topic was partially chosen because the Oscars will be center stage in just 4 days. Oscars are awards for artistic and technical merit for American film industry and are regarded by many, if not most people, as the highest recognition given in the film industry. We all know that popular movie stars have influence on subjects way outside their areas of expertise. But even the film industry is so much more than just familiar faces on the silver screen. There is a choice of subjects covered, the way issues are handled in the scripts, the ethnicity and actors and actresses that are cast for the roles, the compensation formulas, who is hired on the sets, and so forth. Arts and entertainment is a much broader subject matter than just the film industry. To that point, today we have assembled representatives of television, theater, and modern art, who will share their thoughts on how their areas of expertise within the arts and entertainment industry can play a leadership role to help reduce the growing plague in our society called hate.
本次新闻将分享会议的其中一部分内容。
I grew up, my mother's a Viennese refugee, so I sort of grew up as the child of Holocaust escapee. And so I think my antennae have always been out, and that question of when do you know that things are heating up? When do you know it's too late? When do you know you have to resist? Is a really complex one. And maybe it's what drove me to the theater to begin with, because I feel for me, the gift of having been made a career in the theater is that when you see a play and it's live and you are experiencing a human journey in real time with real people in the same zone, not on a little phone, not on your screen, but in real time, there is a kind of empathy and eye-opening sort of imaginative moment that can happen that I think is really life-changing. So I want to start by talking about arts education. I think one way that we as Californians can fight against hate is to support and nurture and encourage children to be educated in the arts and to have opportunities to make art and experience art. And I'll tell you why I say this. I don't think it's a luxury. I don't think art is something that you do when you've done your other subjects. What we have learned through many, many studies, through the RAND Corporation, et cetera, is that the experience of making art, of triggering your own imagination, of trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes, reduces truancy, it increases literacy, it creates team building, it completely reshapes how a child feels that he or she is part of a community. And one of the things we know about hate is another way to talk about hate. It is what happens when you other someone, right? When somebody does something violent to someone else because of who they are, because they are Jewish or Asian or disabled or whatever, that othering allows someone in their mind to think that the person that they're harming isn't like them. And that's an awful thing. And one way to crack that open, I feel, is the experience of the arts, whether you're reading a great novel that you lose yourself in, or for me, making theater, because you can't distance yourself that way, right? You experience humanity on stage, and very often you experience people who are very different from yourself. You know, I always give the most extreme example. Let's say you're watching Medea. Let us hope that none of us has ever wanted to kill our children. But something we do know about in contemporary culture is the kind of plague of postpartum depression that has hounded women, particularly women who have other kinds of mental health issues or poverty or etc. To see a play like Medea and understand what happens to a woman who is driven to that extreme because she feels she has no options is one of the most extraordinary experiences you can have as a human being. You understand, it's what the Greeks called catharsis, but you understand what it is to be driven to that point, and you're aware of what you need to do to protect other people from having to undergo that. So my whole career, I've been deeply involved in arts education. At ACT, we had Downtown Community High School embedded in our theater. And that was a community high school of kids who had never made it in any other school setting. Nobody wanted to teach them. They were kind of, you know, left out in the cold. And we taught them, their high school was through making theater. And I wish each of you could have heard the monologues they wrote and what it was for them to perform those monologues in front of each other, to hear people laugh and cry and empathize and realize they do have a voice. They do have something to say. They are important parts of the community, and that other people could empathize with them. I was just in Washington, D.C. doing a new one-woman show by a Palestinian actress who grew up in Haifa. Her first language was Arabic, her second was Hebrew, her third is English. And the journey of her life in a part of the world that we are now seeing enormous upheaval in. And again, the amount of polarization and hate that is going on in Israel and outside Israel. This piece was a way for me of working with a great artist to just crack open those questions. Again, what I think is so powerful about making art is it's not didactic. It doesn't point the finger. It doesn't tell you in the audience that you're wrong or that you're a bad person or that you're stupid. It says, go on this ride with me. Experience this person's life with us. Laugh with her, cry with her, go on the journey and see what you make of it when you come out the other end. As Bob said, I've spent much of my career working with the playwrights Harold Pinter and Tom Stoppard. And I will just finish by saying this. As a Jew, this is a really frightening moment in the world. The rise of anti-Semitism is virulent and visible. And one of the things we're finding about hate is when one kind of hate, when anti-Asian hate rises, anti-Semitism rises, when anti-Black violence happens, anti-Asian violence, it seems to go in waves. We're kind of all together in this. And so I wrote a book in which the second chapter was about Stoppard and Pinter's Jewish background, because what I came to understand is even though many people thought their plays are kind of abstract or oblique or fantastical or whatever, both of these men suffered unbelievable trauma as Jewish children in the Second World War, having their whole backgrounds taken away from them. And in the case of Stoppard, you know, fleeing as a refugee and then being raised in Britain, being told, don't ever say again that you were Jewish. So his plays are infused with secrets and masking and fear of exposure. For Pinter, you know, he lived through the Blitz as a Jewish child, that then experiencing incredible anti-Semitism. So that knock at the door that happens in Pinter all the time is not abstract. It is the thing you have to be alert to, that somebody, you know, is coming to get you. And I think for me as an artist to have collaborated with them has been so rich, because I think personally I really understand that on the one hand, in this moment in culture for all of us, our antennae have to be out. And on the other hand, our hearts have to be out. So the last thing I want to say is about women, because this is International Women's Day. I started something called the Women's Leadership Project with Wellesley Centers for Women to try and find a way for more women to lead American theaters. When I started, I was really young, and it was such a belittling time for women, right? Where we were always patted on the head and told we couldn't read a balance sheet and we couldn't do this and that. And we always felt somehow that we weren't good enough. And I would like to dedicate this day for myself to my great mentor, Olympia Dukakis, who was my muse for 30 years. And when I would call her in despair and say, Olympia, they don't trust me and they don't believe me and they treat me like shit, she would yell into the phone, Carrie, it's the patriarchy. It's 2,500 years of violence against women. It's not going to change tomorrow. But she also made me believe that we could support other women, that we could do it together, that our voices did matter. So looking at all of you is incredibly inspiring to me, that you're here fighting the great fight. You're doing really important work in every aspect of the industry. I know together we can create an atmosphere through our work.
汉天卫视记者赵诗涵与洛杉矶报道。